On a quiet residential street known as Willow Lane, there stood a house no one talked about openly. It wasn't abandoned. It wasn't ruined. From the outside, it looked like any other middle-class home built in the early 1970s. Fresh paint, trimmed hedges, curtains always drawn. And yet, neighbors crossed the street when they walked past it. No children ever played in its yard. No visitors stayed long. And at night, a single light burned in the basement window, every night, without fail. What the community didn't know was that for nearly 9 years, a crime was unfolding beneath their feet. A family that kept to itself. The residents of the house were the Holloway family, a widowed father, Richard Holloway, and his 2 adult daughters, Elaine and Margaret. After Richard's wife died unexpectedly, the family withdrew almost completely from social life. Richard stopped working. The daughters left their jobs. Groceries were delivered once a week. Mail piled up for days before being collected. To outsiders, it appeared to be a family overwhelmed by grief. In reality, something far more disturbing was taking shape inside the home. The disappearance. In the spring of 2011, Richard Holloway vanished. No missing person report was filed. No police were contacted. When distant relatives asked about him, Elaine calmly explained that her father had moved abroad to live quietly. The story raised no immediate alarms. But there was one detail no one questioned at the time. Richard's bank account remained active, with withdrawals occurring every month, always in cash. According to later police reports, the basement of the Holloway home had been modified. A solid steel door replaced the original wooden one. Heavy locks were installed on the outside. The daughters told neighbors it was for storage. In truth, the basement had become a prison. Richard Holloway had not left Willow Lane. He had been forced downstairs, restrained, and confined to a small concrete room with no windows and minimal ventilation. Why? That question would haunt investigators for years. A crime built on control. During interrogation, Margaret Holloway eventually revealed the motive. Fear. After their mother's death, the daughters claimed their father became controlling, paranoid, and emotionally abusive. He threatened to sell the house. He talked about remarrying. He demanded obedience. Rather than leave, rather than seek help, the sisters made a choice that would define their lives forever. They decided to take control, permanently. What began as an attempt to restrain their father escalated into years of calculated captivity. Life underground. Richard was kept chained to a metal frame bolted into the basement floor. He was fed once a day. Medical care was non-existent. Contact with the outside world was forbidden. The sisters rotated duties. One cleaned. One guarded. One monitored the locks. They convinced themselves it was necessary. They told themselves he deserved it. Over time, the lines between victim and captor blurred in their minds. The basement became normalized. Routine replaced horror. Above ground, life went on. The neighbors' suspicions. Small signs appeared over the years. Strange noises late at night. A foul smell during summer months. A neighbor once reported hearing what sounded like coughing beneath the ground. Each time, the sisters had explanations. Plumbing issues. Old pipes. Mold. No one pushed further. Until one winter evening changed everything. The emergency call. In January 2020, emergency services received a call from the Holloway residence. Elaine's voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "Our father has passed away," she said. "We need assistance." When police arrived, they expected to find an elderly man who had died peacefully. Instead, they were led to the basement. What they found there would later be described as one of the most disturbing domestic crime scenes in the county's history. The discovery. Richard Holloway's body was still restrained. The room was bare. No furniture. No heating. No proper sanitation. Medical examiners concluded that Richard had survived in those conditions for years before dying from complications related to malnutrition and untreated illness. He had not been murdered in a single moment. He had been erased slowly. The trial. The case drew national attention. Elaine and Margaret Holloway were charged with false imprisonment, abuse of a dependent adult, and manslaughter. In court, the defense argued psychological trauma and long-term emotional manipulation. The prosecution argued intent, planning, and sustained cruelty. The jury deliberated for 6 days. Both sisters were found guilty. They received lengthy prison sentences. though neither will ever face life imprisonment. Richard Holloway, however, never truly had a sentence end. Aftermath. The house on Willow Lane was sold and renovated. The basement was sealed permanently. New families moved in, unaware of the history beneath their floors. But for investigators, neighbors, and anyone who studied the case, one question remains unanswered. How many people noticed the signs and chose not to see them? Final reflection. This was not a crime of passion. It was a crime of routine. A reminder that some of the darkest stories do not happen in abandoned places or distant cities, but in quiet homes, on quiet streets, where nothing ever seems wrong. Until it is.